Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to do several projects that I have done in the past couple weeks. I just haven't been able to post them on a video. I'm going to start here with this sweater I picked up at the thrift store. Using this circle that I have at that I got at the Dollar Tree, I'm going to go ahead and just use it as a guide to cut out my circle. So I picked up this needle a couple years ago when I started making these pumpkins. I got it at Walmart. It comes in a set of 3. It's very helpful with these type of pumpkins if you plan on making them. So I'm going to start out by threading it through my piece of sweater here. And I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot, and that's going to be my starting point. Then I will start weaving my needle in and out on the edges of the sweater, creating just a little pocket where I can start to fill to create my pumpkin. So here's my little pouch. I'm going to go ahead and start filling it with some filler, pushing it towards the edges of my little pouch. I really like to focus on filling it on the edges really nicely. I feel that once you start creating the pumpkin and you create your little pumpkin edges, it gives it more of a high-end look. You want it to look full and not flat. So I'm going to go ahead and tie a knot right here. I'm not going to cut that extra jute only because that is going to be where I tie my knot at the end to secure my pumpkin. Then grabbing my needle, I'm going to start and weaving it through the middle of the pumpkin, creating my little lumps. Usually I create 6 little lumps, but you can leave it at 4 depending how much jute you unraveled. If you do end up running out of jute, you can just tie it to that extra jute that we left at the beginning and just restart again. And in this clip here, I did just that. I ran out of jute, so I'm going to go ahead and just tie my extra jute and just restart. That little knot there won't end up showing at the end. So here, as I come to my stopping point, I'm going to go ahead and pull my last loop through, and I'm going to go ahead and secure it with that extra jute that was left on top. And to cover up the little area where we did the knot to secure the pumpkin, I'm going to go ahead and cut a little circle off of another piece of my sweater, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that to the bottom of the pumpkin. So these do end up going to my booth, so I like them to look pretty on both top and bottom. As the stem, I'm going to go ahead and glue on this wine cork stopper. I picked up a really big bag from the Goodwill bin, so I'm finally getting around to using them. Then I want to make like a cute little tag to hang on around my little stem here. I'm going to use this transfers that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. Using a piece of fabric, I'm going to go ahead and transfer the image onto my little piece of fabric. With a little bit of pressure, this does work out well. It takes a little bit of patience. I'm going to go ahead and tie it around my stem here and then create a little jute bow, and then we'll be all done. Next up, I was inspired by some pictures I saw on Pinterest. I have several of these little thread spools that I'm going to go ahead and create little pumpkins with. I'm going to go ahead and use this wood round from Walmart. They come like in a pack of 6 or 8 for $1.74. I'm just going to go ahead and glue them to the top of my spools here just to create a surface where I can glue my stem to. I love the look of moss, especially during Halloween and fall season. So I'm going to go ahead and add some to the top of my spool here. I'm creating a little circle, leaving the center open. That way I can glue my stem directly to that circle form. And again, I'm going to use one of my wine corks as a stem. I'm going to go ahead and add some glue and give it some pressure. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some greenery just to add some color. And again, here I'm going to create a cute little tag using the transfers from Dollar Tree. To add a little hanger to my tag here, I'm going to go ahead and use the same needle I used on the previous pumpkin. And I'm going to go ahead and thread my jute through. It just makes it a lot easier and the hole isn't so big. I'm going to go ahead and tie it on, add a little raffia bow, and then we'll be all done. Next up, I picked up these mushrooms at the Dollar Tree. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with them. So I'm going to go ahead and start with staining my little wood round here that I picked up at the Dollar Tree as well, using some antique wax. I had seen Upcycled by Brie create some cloches, so I decided I was going to create some too, except I'm going to be using these little mushrooms. So I'm going to go ahead and stain these 2 random pieces that I had in my stash just to create the top for my cloche here, which my cloche here was picked up at a thrift store, and I believe it's like a light cover or something. So to cover the hole at the top, I'm going to go ahead and use these little wood pieces. So I'm going to use this Gorilla Glue and hot glue, and then I'm going to set aside to let it dry. So while that dries, I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to start creating my little base here where my mushrooms will sit. So I'm going to go ahead and start covering my floral foam here with some moss from the Dollar Tree. This part is so messy, but I feel like it's so worth it at the end. So in order to get my mushrooms to fit, my cloche, the opening to the bottom of my cloche is not wide enough. So I have to cut these down and flatten one side of the mushroom in order to get the cloche to go over the top. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my 2 mushrooms together. And in order to cover the flat spot of the mushroom, I went ahead and added some moss to all those little white areas just to disguise it a little bit. So once I get my little cloche on top, I'm going to go ahead and use this little tool from the Dollar Tree and push in a lot of the moss that's sticking out from underneath, just to give it a more cleaner look, and then we'll be all done. This here is just a super quick technique that I wanted to show you guys. I'm pretty sure it's been shown before, but I'm trying to make my booth a little more chippy, more rustic right now in the fall season. So I cut down these really big wood pillars to a bed frame, and I want to give them a very chippy look. So I start out by using some paint and some salt wash, and instead of painting it on, I'm going to go ahead and use this popsicle stick, and I'm going to go ahead and start just rubbing it on in different areas, and I'm going to go ahead and let this dry overnight. So here's the next morning. I did get some crackle. I go ahead and grab a sanding block and just sand off all the high peaks, and then seal it with some polyacrylic, and they'll be all done. So next up, I picked up these skulls at the Dollar Tree, and these candle pillars are also from Dollar Tree. I end up taking off the bottom and the top piece, which the top is a little bit harder, but just moving it back and forth, it does budge and it comes off. So I'm not much of a scary Halloween person. I'm more of a whimsical. These in the end come out a little bit creepy for my taste, but I think they're tolerable. So this is where I came across an issue with these. The 2 glues I use, which is the Gorilla Glue and hot glue, I felt like it just wasn't letting the hot glue cure. Maybe if I had let them dry overnight, it would have had a better bond, but I'm not patient enough, so I ended up taking these apart and taking off this glue here and just going in with straight hot glue, and I got a way better bond than using both. And then once I had it glued on, as you can see, this base on this candle pillar was a lot smaller than the other one, so it wasn't wide enough to hold up the top of the skull. So I end up adding this wood slice to the bottom, just to give it a little more weight and so it doesn't tip over. And you guys, I end up using so much hot glue with this just to get it to hold, but it was well worth it. You will see the end result. And actually, out of all the DIYs in this video, these come out to be my favorite. In the comments, let me know which one was your favorite. I also end up adding these little skulls to the sides just to add a little bit more interest. So if you do end up recreating these, if you get the candle pillar with the wider base, I don't feel that you need the wood slice, but I wanted them to look the same, so I do end up adding it to the other one as well. And here I'm going to go ahead and mix up some Ivory Waverly chalk paint with some salt wash, and I'm going to go ahead and give these a coat of texture paint. And you can also use baking powder just to create the same texture. And once I let that dry, I'm going to go in with a coat of Waverly Antique Wax. So if I was just going to do antique wax alone, I would start with a clear wax before putting the antique wax on. But I do want the dimension of the dark wax, so I end up doing it straight onto my skulls here. So once I wipe it back, I'm going to go ahead and set it aside and let it dry, and then I'll start my dry brush. So here I'm going to go in with my dry brush. Hardly any paint on my brush, just to bring out a lot of the detail and give it some dimension. And this is currently still my favorite thing to do, is antique wax and dry brush over. I just love doing this. So to cover up a lot of the glue that's on the bottom of my base here, I go ahead and add some moss to the bottom, and then we'll be all done. And as we come to an end here, I want to thank you guys again so much for being here. Hope you like the DIYs I created this time. And if you like what you see, please subscribe and follow for more, and share this video out. And you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. I post a lot more over there, so if you want to catch me there, go follow me. And again, thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.